everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another meal prep video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing things a little bit different. I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. But for breakfast prep, I'm going to be doing my chocolate chip pancake bake. Haven't done that one in a while. And for lunch prep, it's going to be my Hearty chili. I make this every fall. I absolutely love this chili. And then I only have one dinner kit to put together and nothing to do for snack prep this week. I'm just gonna be doing basic things like pudding, yogurt, that type of thing, so nothing to put together. So if you wanna see how I pull this all together for my husband and I, then stay with me. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Kristi and I'm Planning Us Healthy. If you're new here, like I said, my name is Kristi. I'm currently following the WW Personal Points program, but I also provide calories on my channel as well. However, you don't have to be on any type of weight loss program to get tips and ideas from my channel. I'd love to have you as part of the family by clicking the subscribe button. Also, make sure to click the notification bell because that's what notifies you anytime I upload new content. Okay, so let me start by saying I honestly didn't even think I was going to be doing a meal prep. So this meal prep is a little bit different. I've actually already meal prepped and I'm doing my intro now and it's just going to add it in the beginning. So this is going to be a little bit different because I'm actually having to do a voiceover for some of this for my lunch and my dinner. And the reason for that is we just had a lot going on, had a lot of background noise and that type of thing. So I don't have a big spread that I'm going to be showing you at the end. I'm just going to be showing you how I make my breakfast, how I make my lunch, and then my one dinner kit that I have. And I have to say for my voiceovers, I really prefer to just kind of take you along with me and talk as I'm going, but I really haven't done too many of those, so you'll have to forgive me if the sound is off. All the recipes I'm sharing, as well as any of the items that I use, will be linked down in the description box below. And for any of the recipes that are my recipes, which actually both of these recipes for breakfast and lunch are mine, they're on my website. There's also a link on the website that you can click on to find out what your personal points are. And also if you're following calories, the nutritional facts are on my website as well. So like I said, a little bit different, but I really wanted to get these recipes out and show you what I'm doing for meal prep this week. So let's jump into the video. Okay, for breakfast prep this week, I'm doing chocolate chip pancake bake, and no, it doesn't really look purple. That is just my printer ink is running out, I guess. So I actually redid this recipe because I wanted to update it on my website so that you can get the link to the Weight Watchers website so that you can see what your personal points are. So for me, it's 3 points on the personal points program. If you're counting calories, it's 174 calories per serving. This is gonna make enough for 6. So typically I meal prep for my husband and I. We usually just do 3 days worth. So I'm going to be making enough for 6. So if you have this printed out already, you probably have the old version. So I did update a couple things. I put in there that you can use half a cup of unsweetened applesauce or 2 overripe mashed bananas, and I also changed the chocolate chips. I used to have on there 132 mini chocolate chips, and now I'm using 35 of the Lily's semi-sweet chocolate chips, which are these right here. So for these, you can have 7 for 0, 21 for 1 point, or 35 for 2 points. So I'm using 35 in there. So I'll go through the ingredients real quick. We need 2 cups of Kodiak Cakes pancake mix, and I've already weighed mine out over here, and it does look like a little bit less than 2 cups. That's because I put it on a scale and weigh it. Anything that's flour-like consistency, I actually weigh it. So on here it says half a cup is 53 grams, so I just weigh out 212 grams. And then I also have a teaspoon of baking powder in here. That is new because so many of you have mentioned that you put a teaspoon of baking powder in my pancake bakes, and that really helps. So thank you. I've updated the recipe and added that to it. I also have a teaspoon of cinnamon in there. Normally I use overripe bananas, but I forgot to take them out of my freezer. So if you ever have some bananas that are starting to get really ripe, overripe, don't throw them away. Just peel them, put them in a bag or something like a sandwich bag, and put them in your freezer, and you can use them for recipes. So today I'm using a half a cup of unsweetened applesauce, and then I have my chocolate chips, which these just get put on the top. I'm also going to need an egg and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, which I'm all out. So guess what I'm using? Cake batter extract. This is so good. Okay, so this recipe is so easy. I'm going to take my 13 by 9 inch pan. I'm going to give it a spray, a good spray with cooking spray. And I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to dump all my dry ingredients into my bowl. And then the egg, the unsweetened applesauce, the teaspoon of, it's supposed to be vanilla extract, but I'm using cake batter. And finally, unsweetened almond milk. I forgot to mention, we need 1.5 cups of unsweetened almond milk. And just mix that all together. And in the meantime, I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees. And we're just gonna bake this in the oven for about a half an hour. So after that's all mixed together, now just dump it in your prepared pan. And if you want to add a little bit of cinnamon to the top of it, you can. I'm not going to on this one since I'm going to be adding the chocolate chips. So I'm actually going to just bake this one for 25 minutes because then after the 25 minutes, I'm going to add my chocolate chips and then bake it for another 5. So it's been in there 25 minutes. Looks like I got a couple places of powder where it didn't quite get mixed in. So now I'm just going to kind of spread these around the best I can. I'm going to try and not have them fall down to the sides like some of them are doing. So something you can do is you can let them kind of melt a little bit and then spread them over, like spread it around kind of like a frosting. I've actually done that before. It's really good. It's actually kind of happening because I'm trying to separate these a little bit so they're more even, spread out. It's actually kind of the way to do it, isn't it? I guess that works better. That way you could kind of dab it wherever you want it. So really, honestly, you don't have to, you can just let it cook the full 30 minutes and then do this at the end. But I'm going to put it back in for 5 more minutes. All right, in the meantime, I've got some blueberries. So I just washed some blueberries in some vinegar water and put them in my meal prep containers. And I'm going to use, I have 5 of the single meal prep containers and then I just use a double compartment for one of them because I only have 5 of the singles. So I have my blueberries in there. So if you count blueberries, make sure to add that. And then over here, I actually already had these measured out. These were in my fridge. So in each of these is about a 1/4 cup of sugar-free syrup. The reason I have them already together is because whenever I have made these before, I think the last time I did 6 and did 1 for each, but we only end up using half of it. So we really only end up using 1/8 of a cup for each one. So each one of these will go for 2 portions. So I already have that measured out, so that'll be 0 points for me. So I'm gonna let the pancake bake cook for the other 5 minutes, or actually it's down to probably 3 now. And then I'm gonna let it cool a little bit before I put them into the meal prep containers. Okay, so it's cooled down, and as you can see, I've cut it into 6 portions. So these are really good sized portions. And then what I usually do is cut each of those into 2 and put those in the meal prep container. And just so you can kind of see what it looks like in there. So they are just regular pancakes. So don't expect this to be overly sweet like a cake. It is actually pancakes, not cake. With that being said, if you wanted to sweeten it up and add like some Lakanto monk fruit sweetener or some type of sweetener, you definitely could do that. So there we go. That is breakfast. moving on to lunch. For lunch prep this week, I'm making my hearty chili. I absolutely love this chili. Look forward to it every single year. So for this recipe, I usually make it on the stove and just simmer it pretty much all day, but for today, I'm going to be doing it in my slow cooker. So we're going to start with 3 pounds of extra lean ground beef. We also need a large onion and then 3 peppers of your choice. I usually use a green pepper and then a red and then either yellow or orange. We're also going to need some chili powder. Now my husband and I like a lot of heat, so I usually use about 4 tablespoons of mine, but you can definitely, adjust that to your liking. I'm also going to use a couple cloves of garlic, some salt and pepper, and then all the canned items. So I have 3 cans of Rotel tomatoes and green chilies. You can definitely just use regular tomatoes if you prefer. I like to use a lot of beans in mine. So I have a couple cans of white beans or cannellini beans, and then a couple cans of kidney beans, some tomato sauce, which I usually only use about a cup, and then a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and about 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Over here in my Instant Pot, I have an Instant Pot and slow cooker all in one thing. So I'm actually using it right now though, just to saute the meat. So I am using ground beef that is not 96% extra lean, which this recipe calls for. So you'll see in a few minutes when this is done cooking, what I usually do is take a mesh strainer and I just rinse it through with water, and I then call it 96% extra lean. So that's completely up to you if you do that. So now I'm coming back over here and I'm just going to go through and dice up all my vegetables. I'm going to dice my peppers and my onions. And I actually like these in my chili. I like them to be almost like minced, not just diced. I like them really small, cut into real small pieces. So I'm actually going to be using my little mini chopper for this. This chopper is actually called a Chef's Rival. And the last I knew, Amazon didn't have it anymore, but I'll link it down below and you can go check it out. If they don't have it, I'm sure they have ones that are similar to it. So I'm just manually chopping this. This is a manual one. It's not an automatic, but I just like it. I have more control. So as you can see, they're minced up real well. So I have a pan sprayed with cooking spray and I'm just dumping those in there. And then now I'm going to do the same thing with my onion. And now finally, I'm just mincing up my garlic. So I have about 3 cloves of garlic here. And then I'm going to add those to the pan with the onion. Now, one thing about this is if you're cooking it in your slow cooker, you really can skip this part. I just really like to cook mine a little bit first just to kind of soften it up a little bit. But if you're doing it in the slow cooker, you definitely don't have to do that. So now, as you can see, my meat is done cooking, so I'm going to be putting it in my mesh strainer. So I have a mesh strainer here that I use, and I just put it over a glass dish just to make sure that the grease doesn't go down my drain. And I use a real thin mesh one so that the meat doesn't fall out. So I'm just going to pour it in there, and then I'm just going to rinse it with water. And then I like to take a paper towel, just kind of use a spatula with a paper towel and wipe out the pot. Just get as much grease out of the pot as you can because I'm going to be putting the burger back into this pot when I'm done rinsing it. So then you just want to be careful that you don't fill it too much to let that grease go down your drain. And then just dump it back into the pot. And now I've added all the vegetables to it. Now I'm going to add a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of chili powder. Yes, a 1/4 cup. So 4 tablespoons of chili powder. You definitely don't need to do that much if you don't want to. I also add hot sauce as well. My husband and I just really like the heat of chili. So you definitely can adjust that to your liking. And then I'm also going to be adding 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then I like to stir that all up real well before I add the tomatoes and the beans. So now I'm going to add in the crushed tomatoes, the dark kidney beans and the light kidney beans, And then also the white kidney beans. So I'm using actually a can of cannellini and a can of navy beans, but you can use whatever white beans you want. And then I added in all the cans of Rotel tomatoes and then the tomato sauce. So I actually found an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce that I'm using. So I'm just going to dump that whole thing in there. And then just mix that all together. And I'm telling you, this is so good. And finally, here's where I add in some hot sauce. So I'm going to add in some Cholula hot sauce to this. And again, totally up to you. You can skip this if you want. Like I said, we like a real good kick to our chili. So however much you want to add of that, or just leave it out completely. And then mix that up real well. And as you can see, that is really nice and thick and hearty. That is the way that I like my chili. So now I'm going to be putting my lid on my Instant Pot or slow cooker, whatever you want to call it. And then I just hit the slow cook button, and I'm going to do it on low for 5 hours. So probably really doesn't need that much since everything's cooked, but that's how long I'm going to do it. And then after the 5 hours, there we go. That's what it looks like. Not really too much of a difference from before, but now all those flavors have really incorporated together, and I'm telling you, this is so good. So now what I'm doing is just cutting up some green onion. So whatever you want for your toppings is completely up to you. I'm going to be using green onion. I'm also going to use some sour cream, cheese, some oyster crackers. So the points for me for the chili are 3 points per serving. I'm actually going to be putting a double serving in my meal prep containers. So 1 serving is about 1 cup, and it's 3 points. So with the double, it's 7 points for me on the personal points program. But then I'm going to be getting back 2 points for the vegetables, and then I'll add whatever points for the toppings. So just remember that can kind of vary depending what you put on them. So I actually don't eat the whole entire double servings anyway. I end up usually saving half of it for dinner. So now I'm doing my sour cream. For the sour cream, it's 2 tablespoons is 30 grams, but with the new personal points program, you can actually, I looked it up, you can actually have 29 grams for 1 point. 30 grams is 2 points, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm just portioning them into my little containers that I get from the Dollar Tree and putting those into my meal prep containers. So here I have the double portion. This is 2 cups of the chili. So for this, like I said, it's 7 points minus the 2 points that I gained back from the vegetables. So I call it like a net of 5. But like I said, this is a huge helping, and we actually end up only eating half of this. So, but I just put the whole amount in there. A lot of times what I end up doing is freezing it. Chili freezes real well. So if you have leftover chili, if you make this and you have leftover, you can just put it into like gallon bags and then just lay it flat in your freezer and let it freeze. Chili is really good reheated. So I'm just portioning out everything into my meal prep containers. All the recipes, as well as any of the items that I use, are linked down in the description box. So if you're interested in these particular meal prep containers, I'll have those linked down in the description box, as well as, like I said, the links to the recipes. If they're recipes on my site, like this chili is my actual recipe, then there will also be a link on the website so that you can click and it'll bring you to Weight Watchers so you can figure out what the personal points is for you. So now what I'm going to do is just add some cheese. I have some reduced fat cheese here, and I'm adding 14 grams. For this actual cheese, you could actually have 12 grams for 1 point, but I ended up doing 14. And then I've got my oyster crackers. You can have 11 grams of those for 1 point. And then I'm adding in my green onion. And that is what it looks like for the whole thing. Like I said, that's a double portion. We definitely won't eat that much at one sitting. Okay, so we're moving on to dinner kits. If you're new to my channel, I do DIY dinner kits where I'm basically just putting everything into a reusable bag. I just use these reusable bags I get from Amazon, and I write on them with a dry erase marker. So as you can see on here, I have the Old Points program. I actually was planning on making this a few weeks back and never made it. So it has the Old Points. It is 380 calories, and on personal points, it's 8 points. I get my chicken breast for 0. So in this one, we need ½ ounce of shredded Parmesan cheese, 4 ounces of sliced red bell pepper, 4 butter crackers, 2 tablespoons basil pesto, 8 ounces sliced zucchini, 1 tablespoon sun-dried tomato pesto, ½ a teaspoon of garlic salt, 2 ounces of shredded mozzarella. And then I also use 2 5-ounce chicken breasts. And then the other things we need are olive oil, salt, and pepper, but you could definitely use just some olive oil spray if you wanted. So what I'm doing here is just taking the vegetables and putting them in the bag. I don't wash them or cut them up today. I do all that the night that I have them. So I'm basically just getting everything measured and portioned out in the kit, and then I have it ready when I get home from work. So then here I have 4 butter crackers. I'm just using these Great Value buttery smooth crackers. You honestly can leave these out if you want to save yourself some points. You don't even really need these. So I'm just going to take these little containers. These are little containers that I get from the Dollar Tree. You can get 10 of them for $1. I have this kind, and then I also have some little square ones that I use as well. So I'm just going to use those to store the crackers in, and then those go in the bag. Next, I'm going to take my garlic salt. I don't always measure out the spices. A lot of times I just wait, and the night that I have it, I just do the spices. But I am just measuring out the ½ a teaspoon. That way it's already in there ready to go. So the next thing I'm doing is just going through my list. I always double check my list a couple times. Now I'm going to get the Parmesan cheese. So this is just some shredded Parmesan cheese. It's not reduced fat or anything. It's just regular Kraft shredded Parmesan. And I'm going to weigh this out on my scale. All right, so now I'm actually deciding that I want to switch containers. So instead of using these big round ones, I'm just going to use this little small one that I have. So I'm just going to dump the Parmesan in there. Next, I'm weighing out the part-skim mozzarella. This is just Great Value brand part-skim mozzarella, and I need 2 ounces of that. So I'm putting that in this container. And then now I'm going to use some sun-dried tomato pesto. So I have sun-dried tomato pesto and also basil pesto. I like to take a knife and just stir up that oil that's in there first. So I need a tablespoon of the tomato pesto and then 2 tablespoons of the basil pesto. And then one last check, make sure I have everything, which I do. And then finally my chicken. I have 2 6-ounce portions of chicken breast that are already portioned out. I actually just took those out of my freezer, so that will just thaw in my fridge. So that is how I do my dinner kits. Super easy. When I get home from work, just pull the kit out and start dinner. So like I said, that was a little bit different. Didn't have that ending with all the food sitting on the table. So I hope you liked it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And also, if you're new, I hope you'll subscribe. I'll talk to y'all in my next video. I'm Kristi, and I'm planning us healthy.